Hey guys, today I want to speak about the common flu, the COVID-19 and also the Spanish flu. So let's start analyzing the viruses that cause these diseases. First of all, the common flu virus or the influenza virus. It's a virus that is an RNA-based virus. It also has many segments of RNA, which helps in order for it to mutate. So that's why there's always a different flu, a different influenza virus every season, because it mutates a lot. And that's why there's a different vaccine every year. So for other microorganisms, once you get vaccinated, that's enough for the rest of your life. You don't have to get vaccinated ever again. But for the flu, if you want to be protected against it, then you have to vaccinate every year. And that's because the virus is a different virus every year. It mutates a lot. The same applies to the Spanish flu, given the fact that it was one of the influenza types of viruses. It also has a lot of segments of RNA. That's what it caused it to be mutated into what originated the virus of the Spanish flu. And then the coronaviruses, they are a family of viruses that are quite different to the influenza viruses, of course. But specifically, the one that is provoking the COVID-19 is an RNA-based virus, as the others. But there's a big difference, which is that its RNA consists in just one segment of RNA. So that brings a little bit of hope, because for coronavirus, there's only one RNA segment, which means that it won't mutate as easily as the common flu virus. So now let's speak a little bit about the types of diseases that these viruses cause and their symptoms and treatment. So first of all, the common flu viruses provoke the flu or the influenza disease. Then the COVID-19 provokes in the worst cases, where the symptoms are very acute, SARS, a severe acute respiratory syndrome, which is basically a disease that affects a lot the lungs and the respiratory system. And then the Spanish flu, it's another type of flu. It provokes a flu, but it was fatal in many cases. So the symptoms of these three diseases at the beginning are more or less the same. That's why before we all went into lockdown in many countries, many politicians were saying that this was just a flu. But about the coronavirus, I mean. But the reality is that it's not. The way the body reacts to their infections at the beginning is similar. So it provokes high fever, it provokes a runny nose, it provokes fatigue, it provokes coughing. But the thing is, with the common flu, commonly in more than 99% of cases, it stays that way. And then you can treat yourself just with a bit of water, with a bit of rest, or even you can get vaccinated and it's gonna be fine. Then the thing with the coronavirus is that the symptoms can be much weird, can get weirder, and there's some uncommon symptoms by what it's known about it by the moment, which are, for example, headache, loss of smell, sore throat, which aren't that atypical, isn't it? That they happen also when you have a cold or when you have the flu. But also, one thing that happens that is very unique, speaking about coronavirus, the COVID-19, it's that there's shortness of breath. And in the worst cases, patients, instead of just having to rest, water, and maybe paracetamol, What they need is oxygen therapy. And regarding the specific treatment for coronavirus 19, there's many researches going on at the moment, but obviously, as this is an ongoing pandemic, there's no certainty about how to treat it yet. There's a vaccine being developed. There's also some serums that have been developed and that are being tested still. And in hospitals, they are treating patients that have these hard or difficult symptoms. They are treating them with antivirals, which are basically drugs against viruses specifically. Because remember, in these three cases, we're speaking about viruses. You will never use antibiotics against a virus infection unless the virus infection provokes a bacterial infection. Then yes, you use antibiotics. But in general, you won't use them because they don't have any effect against the virus. And then regarding the Spanish flu, in 1918 there was a first wave of the disease in the spring of 1918, where it was basically just a common flu. Not many people more than for other seasonal flu died. The problem was that in the next fall, in 1918 fall, there was a second wave. And this second wave hit hard in all the countries all over the world. And in this second wave, apart from the normal symptoms that we've explained before, there were some symptoms that were quite dangerous for the human body. Like, for example, bluish skin or lungs fillings with liquid, which provoke the patient to suffocate and then eventually asphyxia. This was one of the major issues fighting the Spanish flu illness, and that's why many people died. And also regarding the treatment, it was 100 years ago, isn't it? So science was working in a different way rather than today. And they were using some oils and herbs, like for example, they were using cinnamon with milk to treat the patients. And also there was a big general mistake, which was that many doctors were using a lot of aspirin in treating the Spanish flu. The aspirin actually caused many intoxications that actually lead to many deaths of the Spanish flu. So now I want to go through some numbers. The thing is, regarding pandemics, it's very difficult to get super accurate numbers because pandemics is something that has to do with all the globe, with all the whole world. So for example, the World Health Organization, the Center for Disease Control, they all suggest that around 600,000 people every year died out of the flu. That's quite astonishing, above all, given the fact that nobody speaks about it. Nobody speaks about it in the news, nobody speaks about it in the social media. It is true, sometimes you hear a little bit about them, but they don't make a huge deal about it. And there's almost 1 million people all over the world dying out of the flu every year. Also, the WHO estimates that around 0.6% of people who get infected by the flu get killed by it. The only difference in comparison with the Spanish flu or with the ongoing coronavirus pandemic is that we are very used to have pandemics of the common flu. It happens every year, it has happened every year, so it will only keep happening. So why bother and speak about it? I think that's a huge mistake because pandemics are much more normal than what people believe nowadays. They happen all the time. They happen every year regarding the flu, and that's why we shouldn't be scared about pandemics. It is true, we should be concerned about certain pandemics, like for example the ongoing coronavirus pandemic or the Spanish flu. So, regarding the coronavirus pandemic of 2020, it is true the data that we have is still too weak. We don't know how this disease is gonna develop. We don't know what is gonna happen in the near future regarding the pandemic. But taking the data that the US government is giving to the rest of the world regarding the coronavirus crisis, nowadays, officially, the US has stated that around 38,000 people have died. They have stated a specific number, but I go through the general numbers. So around 38,000 people have already died out of coronavirus. And around 0.7 million people have been infected by it, at least officially. That doesn't mean that there's no more people infected by it. Even if the US government states that only 0.7 million people have been infected by coronavirus, the reality, as many experts and many organizations all over the world say, is that there's many more infected people already. These official numbers come only from the people who have been tested positive for the coronavirus test. But there's many people who didn't even worry when they got the coronavirus infection because they didn't even realize, because they didn't have any kind of symptoms. There's many people who don't have any kind of symptoms. And there's also people who thought it was just a cold or thought it was just a normal flu. So the number of infected people are estimated to be a much higher number than this one. That's why when we speak about official death rate percentages, it's a little bit dangerous to do it, because if we calculate it based on the numbers that the US government has officially stated, the official death rate nowadays, as for 18th of April, it's 5.4% of people who get the infection who die. So again, think about it. It is true the deaths may be more, and this won't be clear until a few years from now, for sure. But the number of people who are infected are many more, because it's literally impossible to test every single citizen of the country. And this is a very contagious virus. So obviously the death rate, the estimated death rate is lower than 5.4%. And actually the WHO estimates that it is more or less 3.4%, the estimated death rate of people who get the sickness. And all over the world, either you have or not the coronavirus, it's a 1% death rate. So 3.4% of death rate is actually a high death rate, above all in comparison to the 0.6% death rate of the common flu, the average common flu. But let's focus on the Spanish flu numbers. The Spanish flu numbers are only estimated numbers, but it is true that it's been estimated that around 100 million people died out of the Spanish flu. At that time, that meant around 2 to 4% of people on the earth died out of the Spanish flu. That's a lot of people. And then the death rate of the Spanish flu is estimated to be in between 10 and 20%. So that's a much higher number in comparison to the 3.4% estimate of death rate for coronavirus by the WHO. Even 10% it's much higher. And of course, one thing that I haven't mentioned before is that the main difference between the way the Spanish flu virus killed people and the coronavirus is killing people nowadays is the age range, isn't it? Like, we all know that COVID-19 is killing people above 60 or with a previous medical condition. And in the Spanish flu, the thing was that most of people that died out of it were young adults. That's a big deal. That makes a big difference. But again, it's still really concerning that the coronavirus is killing so many people, no matter the age range. It's very concerning and numbers can change. So I just want to add that yes, pandemics happen all the time. We can see that with the common flu. And people die every single year. We should be more concerned about that. Then, regarding the coronavirus pandemic ongoing at the moment, let's all hope that the Spanish flu pandemic keeps being worse than the coronavirus pandemic. And let's keep in mind that even if we went through a big Spanish flu pandemic that killed many people, killed up to 4% of humans' population, we survived it and we kept going forward. So no matter what happens with the 2020 coronavirus pandemic, we're gonna survive it. There's gonna be deaths, but we're gonna go through this. And we have to keep going on because that's the purpose of societies. Always keep going on. And always taking the best and making it better and using it in the future so we can be more protective and so we can keep always going on. So guys, I hope you liked this video. Subscribe if you liked it and also give it a thumbs up please. And tell me in the comments everything you want to know, all the questions, all the details you want to add. If you want to give more data about the specific thing that I've spoken in this video or about any other thing that can be related to it, please do it. And I hope you have a great day and keep yourselves safe. Bye!